I'm Amanda Belichick, and I am Coach to Win.
Go get me some knowledge. Did any of the Belichick kids have any other options other than coaching? Did anybody want to be a baker, a plumber, and maybe somebody wanted to be an accountant, a police officer, a firefighter?
Sure.
What is the deal with the Belichick kids and coaching?
Well, I think we need to classify language. Does options mean offers of jobs? Does options mean interest?
Yeah, that's a good point. See, spoken just like a true
Well,
coach.
let's
Let's be specific. Yeah,
well,
no, interest.
what by offers?
Let's talk about
Well,
interest first.
yeah,
Obviously, your grandfather was a famous coach at Navy for 50 years. Your dad, obviously, Bill Belichick. Both your brothers are coaching in the league and in
yeah.
college. What were you interested in and what led you to coaching?
So when I was in college, my first internship was at an advertising agency. And mid 2005, advertising seemed cool. Perfect, like cool, glamorous. I don't know. It seemed like a good idea. I ended up at an ad agency in Boston doing an internship where I was doing really random internship things, but I found it very distant from the work that I was doing. Dunkin' Donuts was one of their accounts, and I got to go see a couple of Dunkin' Donuts commercials or whatever. And it's okay. Do I care? Not really. And so it was like, okay, what do I care about advertising? That was between my sophomore and junior year. Between my junior and senior year, I did an internship at ESPN in New York, and was very fortunate to get that opportunity. And it was a really cool it was in marketing. And so it was like, okay, I can market for sports. Would that be more up my alley? Because at least I know I care about sports.
Yeah.
And but it was still, again, I felt very distant from any kind of team element. And so that was where I ended up coming back around to how could I get back into like more of that community feel. My first job out of college was at Choate in Connecticut. I coached 3 sports and I worked in the admission office. That was my full-time job, was interviewing prospective students and that building of the class, which I loved. I loved that process. But once they came to campus, I really didn't work with them because I'm in the admission office.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I just ended up getting closer and closer back to the actual working with the team.
Wait, so what 3 sports did you coach at that point in
Soccer,
time?
ice hockey, and lacrosse.
Okay. Ice hockey?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I didn't
I
know.
played JV ice hockey in high school, and I played
Okay.
club ice hockey at Wesleyan.
Okay. All right. Okay. Wow, that's a
I'm not
heavy
good at
load.
it. I'm not good
Okay.
at it, but I did it. And so I just felt like the things that I enjoyed as part of my job, that was the coaching part. And so I felt the marketing elements, which I initially was drawn to, I still feel are very much a part of my job, where I'm sitting here with a vision for this team and what we want to be. And that's recruiting. That's you're selling your brand and your experience to players who are walking in the door and looking at however many different schools they're looking at. But every day we're going out and pitching to our players, this is why we need to do what we're doing. We all got to be on the same page. That's teamwork. And so it felt like in that path, it was this really far away version of what I'm still doing today.
When you think about it, if you're going to be a coach, if you want to be a coach, you probably should get a minor in advertising and marketing because you're literally selling yourself more than anything and the school. So it would be nice to have those little keys. So from
selling
there,
your game plan, this is why we need to do a run test. This is why we need to show up on time. Like, it's all part of the whatever your things are.
so I guess you like the aspect of building something and selling a
Yes.
university, but community seems like it was important to you also. Having an impact on people's lives, making a difference, teaching them, being a mentor. How important was that to you?
I think that the opportunity to work with young people, to make an impact in their lives, to develop them, like that to me was a fun part. The best part of coaching, my favorite part of my job every day, is when that moment of that light bulb moment when you see someone do something and they surprise themselves and they're like, oh, I just did that. That's the fun part, I think. That's the part I love.
taking some of the tools that you provided them and then seeing it play out in real time on the field? It's almost like
Yeah.
an aha moment.
Yes. Like I couldn't do that before, and now I can.
Yeah. So how tough was because all these coaches that I talked to, they all have this crazy tough journey from when they started being a gopher, getting coffee, making copies, picking up people at the airport. And I sit there and go, why do they do it? You went to Wesleyan. Obviously, you played there, team captain, had a lot of success. You mentioned Cho. Then you're at UMass. Then you're at Ohio State. How challenging were those early times just creating your own reputation and your own standard of excellence as you're trying to get a head job?
I think for me, one of the things that, and I'd be curious to hear what your take is on this. Like, one of the things that always resonated with me in watching my father in over the years in his career, and I think sustained success, which I don't even know if I would necessarily say I've ever achieved that on a personal professional level, but to me, like, that's got to be the hardest thing. So it's you get to the top, you get to wherever you are. How do you stay there? How do you sustain that? And to me, I feel like the observation was always you keep reflecting and you keep figuring out how you can get better for you. And so it's not about everyone else. It's not about doing what they're doing or okay, that team won, so we got to go do what they're doing. It's all about how do we keep getting better and find ways to compete wherever you are, because I think in college every school is different, every place is different. So how do you get to whatever that point is? And I think that has been something that I've always really tried to use. And regardless of where I was in my career, what do I enjoy? Do I have a purpose? Am I being helpful? Am I growing? Is there an opportunity for me to keep getting better here? And keep finding those ways to keep building. I really have always enjoyed school. I've always loved learning. I've always just loved that process. And so that's always been something really natural for me.
How hard is it for you to resist following the herd when everybody's doing this and this is the new trend and coaches are changing their workout and their philosophies and on their technique? How tough is it for you to resist that temptation to follow what somebody else is doing instead of just being true to yourself and what you believe works?
I just think for me, I always want to be as educated as possible in whatever I'm doing. And I want to have good reasons for doing it. So if we're going to put in a scheme and I'm not really that confident in it, I have a hard time teaching it with authenticity. So being authentic to myself feels like something that I've always put a lot of emphasis in personally. Like my ability to feel confident comes with my preparation, my ability to communicate something confidently. And I think when you hear things from other coaches, and I've been so grateful to work with a lot of great coaches, but also to be in a sport where our coaches share and talk about things. And I have great mentors where I can call them and say, hey, tell me what you think about this. But having the ability to process that and figure out how to make it yours and how to make it make sense in your program, I think to me, like that's but I think part of that is my personality. So I love like learning what other people are doing. It's so interesting to me. But when I don't know the ins and outs of it, I have a really hard time conveying.
When it comes to education, how far back do you go when it comes to women's lacrosse? You're only the sixth women's head lacrosse coach in Holy Cross history. So it's not like the program has been around forever.
Yeah.
How far back do you watch the men's game at all? And can you draw anything from the men's game?
I think from a lot of sports, I think a lot of sports, and I mean, we've talked about this in practices, like where a drill will be going on and something will happen and it's just, come on, like sports. Like that just feels like an athletic sports instinct, but also knowing your rules and knowing what your constraints are allows you to work through whatever the factors could be. But yeah, men's lacrosse, basketball, football. I think ice hockey is a really interesting
Comparison?
It's so fast. Like there's so much transition in ice hockey. So I think there's a lot of different comparisons.
I want to go back to the beginning when you first started, when you were hired in July of 2015 at Holy Cross. The team, the year before you were hired, they finished 4-14. And you come along and the team finishes 3-15.
was perfect. It was
It's
exactly how
explained,
you want it to happen.
yeah, it's explained to me how challenging that year was. First year coach, big time name recognition. Tell me about that year and how you got through it and what your, I guess, what any tools that you used to believe in the process that you were creating.
First of all, thank you so much for bringing that up. Oh,
Well,
thank
we're
you.
going to get to 2024. There is a
Thank you
happy
so
ending.
much. No.
There is a happy
Well,
ending.
so the first, I gotta go back. I gotta find it because this has come up a couple of times in my head, at least recently. It was either the first year or like the second year, maybe, but one of those early years, you get your team T-shirt and like you come up with your themes, whatever your thing is, and on the back of our T-shirt, we put respect the process. Respect the process. It's a process. We know this isn't going to turn over overnight, and I think my mentality from day one and to this day, players who come in and sit in our office and talk about recruiting, talk about anything, like we are never trying to band-aid anything. We're trying to build things that can last over time. I don't want an answer for today. I want things that we can build on long term. A play that's going to help us today, fine. But does that help us? Do we learn anything from that? Is there any growth in that? Or are we just spending time doing things that are just going to help us now? And I think that's been something that's certainly been my mentality from the beginning. There is a process here. Trust the process. Stay with it. Keep growing. Keep building. Keep chipping away. And I think just being willing to get better personally and knowing that it's not all about me, but it also is about me. I am the head coach and I run this program and make a lot of decisions here. And so what am I doing well? What do I need to get better in? And is this something that I really want to stand by and is going to make us, successful long term? Or is it something we learn from and need to move on from?
Yeah. Again, fast forward to 2023, 2020. So that was 2023 Patriot League Coach of the Year. Golf clap for you.
2024, last year,
2024. Yeah, 2024. Yeah.
Yep.
I screw up the football seasons and the
Yeah.
lacrosse seasons because lacrosse is like the last sport of the year and everybody's leaving.
But it's weird. So 25, like we're the first, it's weird. Yeah, I hear
Yeah.
you.
How good did that feel to be recognized as one of the best in your league?
It was awesome. And I think one of the things that was really different about our team last year was we went from hoping we were good enough to believing that we were going to be good, believing that we were good enough. When you go out there and you hope that you practice hard enough and you hope that you have the skills to compete, but when you match up against someone, you never really know until it's game day. And I think that's why you play the game. If you knew who was going to win every day, you would build the team and then you would see the end product and think there would be no middle. But that's why you play. That's sports. That's why we love sports, is that chance to compete, the chance to go out and prove yourself. And I think that belief that we were good enough and we could be good enough every day changed. And then we went out and we were. And I think the talent we're certainly a more talented team. We're a better team, top to bottom. Have a lot of other things in place that have been helpful. But I think that core belief was really important.
What are your core values that you express to the team?
I think just at the very base of it, it's do the right thing, be a good person, take care of your people. We want a family here. We want a place that you trust your team. I think for me, family is about, you don't always like everyone in your family, but you love your family. You have their back. No matter what happens, like you have your back. It's like Rocky sometimes. Like I think that's sports. Like you don't always love each other. You don't always love how things went. Not everyone always makes perfect decisions. On the inside, you deal with all that stuff, but externally, this is my team.
Yeah.
But I think that's the environment we've really tried to create and build here.
When you're out recruiting and looking for new players, other than the obvious, the speed and lacrosse, the stick skills, what stands out to you? Is there anything that you look for as far as just traits that may not be obvious that are specific to you and you building your team?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, and this sounds so basic, but I think it's so important, is do you love lacrosse? Do you love this sport? enough to show up every day and be curious about it? Are you interested in getting better, or do you just want to show up and play? At the college level, we practice a whole lot more than we play. And so if you don't like the sport and you don't like the work and the process, it's really hard, I think. I think you got to be interested in what we're doing. I think finding people who want to be a part of this team and this community is important. And those are things that you learn along the way in the recruiting process. But at the end of the day, I believe in what we're doing. And I think finding players that are drawn to that and that are excited about it matter. I think players who are willing to take care of their people. It's just be part of
So,
it.
but
So
how do you know
forward.
that if you're at one of these tournaments, or
Mhm.
Maryland, all over the place, and you don't know these people, is there something that stands out that is it toughness? Is it speed? Is it
Yeah.
someone who's real vocal, who maybe it really
Yeah.
is gifted?
For one of the things that I feel like I consistently am drawn to are players who take risks and fail and keep trying. So you make a play, like there's a lot of players out there that don't, that will do things or shoot when they know they're going to score. Yeah, you should score that. Do you take risks and do you fail? And then it's not how do you respond? Oh, if you drop the ball, do you chase it? It's okay. Like I took that shot and then I rode. But then the next time your team has the ball on offense, are you just like hanging out and watching someone else go? Or are you trying to create for your teammates? I think that type of player is always interesting to me. People who push a little bit further than what their skill set is, maybe, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah.
The other aspect that I think is unique, culture building, team building. In the pro level, you're constantly rebooting and starting over. In the college level, it seems like it's getting harder and harder to not only retain your players, but motivate them. Do you have any techniques or philosophies that you can share that you have used before to create that family atmosphere that you're talking about, that culture that you want to have?
I think one of the places that it starts for us is being open, being transparent, communicating openly with your players, with time, making sure that they really believe what you're saying and doing that. And I think for us, development is a really important part of our program where each player is working towards something. And so whether that's your starter or someone who hasn't seen any minutes and probably won't, we're working on developing something. And so no one is here. I certainly don't view myself as a manager. Like, I'm not here trying to find the best kids and just throw them out on the field and see what happens. Like, everyone's working towards something. We're always growing. And I think that's something that showing that investment in your players is important. But I think it also, when you can point to other examples on your team of, hey, look, like that kid wasn't always good. And you see them making a lot of great progress now. And then making sure that those players are talking about your story. I'm a senior now and I start, but when I was a freshman, I didn't see any time and I did individuals every week. And so it wasn't always like this. So it's not like rainbows and butterflies. Like you got to work for it. But even the players who do start as freshmen are getting in and working and are progressively getting better. And so you can point to those things where it happens. But as coaches, we try really hard to invest in our players' development. We've been so fortunate, and I think I'm so grateful for it. Our players have had great experiences here. We haven't had a lot of players try to transfer, not try to, or decide to
Yeah.
transfer. So we've been able to really develop our players, and I think you see it in our rosters. If you look over time, freshmen starting, freshmen playing, but you also see seniors on the team or juniors on the team coming in and making an impact as upperclassmen.
Yeah, the trust aspect is so important.
Yeah.
I've heard that from everybody,
Yeah.
and it is almost like a non-starter if you can't earn that trust. And I don't know, maybe you answer it, but earning that trust is done how?
Well, doing what you say you're going to do. I'd say one of the things that, hey, if you ever want to shoot with me, text me and let me know. When you text me, I need to say, great, let's do it at 1:00 on Tuesday. And then I need to show up and then we need to shoot and we need to practice it and I need to help make you better. And then if you want to do it again, I still have to show up for that. If I say to someone in a meeting, oh, okay, you're having a hard time off ball. All right, I'm going to make sure I pay attention to that so I can try to help you with that during practice. I need to do it. Like, you can't just talk about stuff and then not do it. It's just, again, being authentic and doing the things you say you're going to do. And whether that happens with one person or with everyone, they all see it and they all talk, and you're speaking to everyone all the time. They're all
Yeah, that
watching.
sacrificing your time, just giving it selflessly, and they go, "Wow, geez, I guess if they're showing up on a 1 o'clock on a Saturday, they must really
Yeah.
value, like really are, diving into my career." Is there something that your dad told you before you got into coaching? Is there something that Belichick words of wisdom that he gave you that you still hold true to this day? Or did he say, "Don't do it"?
Right. No, it was, I think that it's so funny because he's last year, I was like, "Dad, if you want to come work for me, let me know." I'm like, "We can do that." He's like, "I don't know anything about lacrosse." And I was like, "Honestly, come coach me. We do want." No, but I think honestly, like over the years, I've been so fortunate to be in environments where I was able to go watch him or sit in on meetings here or there or having phone calls. And we practice in the morning a few days a week. Like we would we have phone calls from 4:30 to 5:30 in the morning when we're both driving. And I think just being able to talk to someone outside of your sport it's not your boss, it's not someone that you trust that you can be open with. And how do you manage this type of player? Like it was always a lot of our conversations are based around team building or how do you manage these types of players? Or if you're having this kind of conflict, what do you do? How do you anticipate conflict? How do you anticipate problems? How do you like that type of stuff? I feel like has been a lot of our conversations over the years. I think for me, and I go back to what we were talking about at the beginning, but just being able to watch his work ethic and hear consistently from him over time, I think has made probably the biggest impact on me. That even once the success started to happen, that doesn't change things. It makes it harder. It's not, you just have to keep going. And every year is different. Every year is a refresh. I remember years after he would win a Super Bowl and we're flying home on the plane and everyone's like exhausted. And he's sitting there like thinking about what's next. And I'm like, it would get to sit next to him and it's, what are you doing? And it's like watching the film and it's seriously
Yeah, that
like
is,
that type of experience for me just shows what it takes.
it takes a lot. And you got a family of your own, and you have your own family, and then you got your lacrosse family.
Yeah.
Which one has a stronger pull? Who is pulling you with the stronger force?
Depends on who you ask. No. I think the thing I've gotten better at is compartmentalizing and being there when I'm supposed to be there, wherever that is. And
Yeah.
the file cabinet analogy is one that I learned a long time ago from my dad. And like kids now, like kids don't even know what a file cabinet is anymore. But you open one drawer, and if you open all of them, the thing pulls out, like the whole thing topples over because of the weight. And they're built so you can only pull one drawer at a time. Don't try to do everything all the time. When you're at work, when you're at home, be home. When you need to do other things, whatever those things are for you. For our players, if you're at practice, you can't study. If you need to study, this isn't where you need to be, then let's have that conversation. You can't study. Here's to stop worrying about school. Show up, work hard, and then you can leave and go do your thing. And I think that's something, again, in just being authentic and do what you say you're going to do. When practice ends, it ends. Then yeah, go study, go do whatever you need to do outside of practice. But when you're here, be here.
I'm stealing that one.
It's a good one, right?
I haven't heard the file cabinet. You're right. You're right. And
Like you can't
yeah,
you can't take, like, we don't have file cabinets anymore. They don't know what it is.
in order to illustrate that, Coach, you may have to actually wheel
Might
in a
have
file
to
cabinet.
I might have to invest.
What if Staples sells any of those? I don't even know if
Well,
they do
you
anymore.
get a file cabinet, just put one in the locker room and see what happens.
They're like, oh, what is this thing?
That would have been a great first year investment. We didn't have a locker
Yeah.
room. We didn't have a locker room back then. Just throw a file cabinet in there. You know, when you want to make a statement, when you're here, just be here.
Oh, it's so true. One more thing. How would you advise parents when it comes to the recruiting process, when it comes to coaching your kids, when it comes to parental influence with their kids? Is there anything that you can share as far as what you've seen that works and how much input and how much hovering they should
Watch.
have and how much they should stay away? Like, any input on that?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I am so grateful for the team that we have here. Our families are amazing. They're amazing. They are so helpful. They're amazing. I think the thing that we try to do, and again, it comes back to communication, setting your expectations. I tell my players that if you have questions, if you ever had that feeling of, that feels a little weird, or I wonder, if you ever wonder what I'm thinking, that is your signal to schedule a meeting. Please do not waste time trying to figure out or wonder what I'm thinking. I will tell you what I'm thinking. I can't spend all day just telling you what I'm thinking. That would be a waste of everyone's time. But if you ever wonder what I'm thinking, ask me.
So you'll tell them that.
I tell the players that at the
Yeah.
beginning of every year, but I repeat it throughout the year.
Do
And
they feel like it's like a trap? Do they
No.
feel like, and they use it?
There's no consequence to it. You want to know, let's talk about it. And because that's their culture, our upperclassmen have that experience. Hey, I feel like it's like I feel like I should be playing. If you say that to someone, they'll say, go set up a meeting. I don't want to talk about that. Go talk to her. And that's what we do. And I think the other thing is that I say to the players, I hear this a lot from peers. I think a lot of people would advise, send your expectations to your parents, email them and tell them what you expect of them. And I don't disagree with that. I think, again, you have to be authentic, do what's right for you and your program. I communicate to my players, and I communicate to my players, I am not going to talk to your parents about playing time. You are the player. You're the one who's here. I see you every day. If you can't come talk to me, then that's a different problem that we need to solve. I'm not going to talk to your player. I'm not going to talk to your parents. I will, if they're worried about you, call me. I would always, and that's something I share with parents, I think have over the years. If you're worried about something, call me. But one of the first questions I'll ask the parent is, have you talked to your daughter? Do they know we're talking? We should involve them in this conversation because they're the ones who I see every day. They're the ones we work with. I think the other things with parents, and maybe a caution, and I'm guilty of this for sure with my parents. We call our parents or whoever your person is when the best things happen and when the worst things happen. Like, you don't call your parents when you go to lunch. Just so you know, I ate today. Like, you don't tell them that. You call them when like the best stuff happens and when the worst stuff happens. And so I think as a parent, the less you interact with your kids. And so a lot of these kids, the first time they're going away is to college. So you don't see them every day anymore. And so the phone calls you get are not mundane. Like, they're not, it's, oh, how was school? School was fine. You don't hear that anymore often. Maybe not for everyone, but you don't get that. And I think reminding parents that could be what's happening. You might not just know what the middle is. They're actually fine. But something really bad happens, but you don't get a follow-up. I have this horrible class. Oh my God, class is going horrible. But it's actually everything's fine. And then the next day they go to class and they're like, it was actually fine. Like, you don't get the follow-up call. And so I think reminding parents about that sometimes is helpful, and reminding kids that's their parents' experience too.
That is so true. That is
like, how many
so
nightmare calls do you get?
That is all the time. All the time.
I heard
talk to your
like,
coach.
it's still going. What happened? Yeah.
The one part that you said that I think is so true, and I hate coaches that play this passive aggressive mind trip. I'm just going to say a vague statement to the team, but I'm going to look in a specific area instead of just saying, hey, you're not playing as good as you should. I'm going to have to make some changes if you don't step it up.
Not willing to have a conversation, then there's nothing you can do. I got really good coaching advice. This was actually there's a person that I've worked with at Holy Cross who's just incredible. She actually works in human resources and is part of a talent development. And she's awesome. It's like coaching therapy. I'm obsessed with her.
This is what we're doing right now.
Helpful for me because she's given me like an outlet, but it's not my boss. It's not my assistant coaches. She's been this great outlet. But one of the things that we have talked about is that communication in general. And one of the things that we've worked on over the years is when you're giving feedback to your team, to be specific. And so I try to avoid at all costs saying that's good or that's bad. That was really good passing, or that was really bad ball movement. That was really bad effort. That was really good, whatever. Because anytime as a player or as a human, like we hear feedback, that was really good. Awesome. I want to replicate that. But if you don't know what was good, if you replicate the wrong thing, I'm trying to do what the coach wanted because she said that was good, but I meant passing and you thought I meant hustle.
Mm.
And just trying to be specific when I share feedback. And it's not always easy, but I think that even just thinking about the idea of if you say something like that is good, what is good? And I think that's been something that I think has at least helped me too, because it also helps me identify what I'm watching or what I value.
Go get me some knowledge.